Anyway, welcome. And I hope this won't become a lecture. We're together to learn a little bit. And for these few weeks about Purim. So we'll begin with the beginning. Chazal say that when Adar comes, we increase simcha. What is simcha? And we always point out that simcha has two separate meanings. Simcha sometimes is used in the sense of celebration, and sometimes it's used in the sense of contentment and satisfaction with one's life. L'chora, a person should always be content with his life. A person should always be satisfied. It's not specific to Adar. So the simple meaning of B'Simcha is the celebration aspect. That other months of the year, the celebration is muted. Comes Adar, Marbim B'Simcha. So we increase the celebration. And it seems that in that department we're doing pretty good. I think Purim is pretty festive, and we sing, we dance, we eat, we drink. So we're yaitza, the idea of celebration. Just before we go to the other side of the equation, I just want to confess a sin that I committed this week. That this past Tuesday I was less than truthful when I spoke to the Bachram in the Yeshiva. I was poking fun at Family Day. And I said, you see how inane the idea of Family Day is. Normally, you have an occasion which justifies the celebration, so we establish a holiday to celebrate the occasion. This Family Day was the opposite. The province decided we needed a holiday in February, so that's the given.
That's the reaction to Family Day.
Right? There's going to be a holiday in February, so it has to have a name. Well, that normally is not an obstacle. The holiday in August also was an invention of the province, and most people just call that civic holiday. But I guess they couldn't have two holidays without a name, so they decided Family Day. So it's a shtutz, right? It's putting the cart before the horse. Because we have to have a celebration. So we have a celebration. Now we need to think of something to call it, so we call it Family Day. The truth is that it's not so silly. There's a truth to this. I'm fond of quoting, not from Tzaddok, but from a different Rebbe, from the Piazetz and the Rebbe. The Piazetz and the Rebbe, and you know, the Chayvus HaTalmidim, the Eish Kodesh, the last Rebbe in the Warsaw Ghetto. So he wrote a sefer called Sav V'Zorus, a little sefer. And he writes like this. He writes that Nefesh HaAdam Oheves L'Yisragesh. The soul of a human being loves to experience intense emotion. And not necessarily joy, not necessarily simcha. It enjoys feeling intense emotion, even pain, even sorrow. The soul feels alive when it experiences that type of emotion. And it yearns for it. I always give a mashal that imagine people go to the movies. I don't advocate it, but let people go to the movies. And the film that's being shown is a romantic tragedy. And everyone is sitting in the theater, and they are crying their eyes out. And after the show, everyone comes out, and you ask, well, how was the film? How'd you like it? It was great, loved it. And you loved it. While you were sitting there, you were crying like a baby. But the idea is that that emotional experience is very satisfying. And he writes this. The soul of a person wants to be misragesh. So he says like this. If a person has that experience in his Torah, in his tefillah, in his mitzvahs, then it's very good. But let's say a person doesn't have that in his Torah, in his tefillah, in his mitzvahs. Let's say that his religious life is cold and uninspired. So now there's a problem. Where is he going to have this emotional outlet? So he says one of two things are going to happen. Either he will find it in a cheap area of life. He doesn't give examples, but let's say, for example, vicariously experiencing the thrill of victory with your favorite sports team. It's a bizarre thing. You're a couch potato with a beer belly, and you're watching these trim and slim athletes competing on the field, and you feel after it's over that we won. It's bizarre. But vicariously you're living through them, and that also is an emotional experience, the thrill of victory. Even the agony of defeat may be an aspect of that. Or, says the Piazetzner, or you'll try to do without. And then, Rahman al-Islam, he says, you can become a chayla mechayli hanefesh. You can experience an emotional illness in as much as you are denying the soul one of its needs. That's what the Piazetzner Rebbe says. So you have a choice. If you don't find it in Torah and mitzvahs and avodah, celebrations of Yom Tov, either you'll find it in a cheap place, or you'll try to do without. If you try to do without, it's at your own peril. That's what the Piazetzner says. So it always intrigued me. Such a chidush. Is there a source? Did someone earlier ever say such a thing? Because I found that the Sefer HaChinuch really says the exact same thing on the mitzvah of Simchas Yom Tov. One of the Tayag mitzvahs is the mitzvah of Simchas Yom Tov, to be Sameach, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot. The Sefer HaChinuch says like this. He says, Mishar Shei mitzvah, the root of this mitzvah, Lefisha ha'adam nachayin al inyan, man was established in such a way, shetzarech kivo l'smayach leprakim. His nature requires him to celebrate from time to time. Meaning there is a need to celebrate. K'mo shetzarech el hamazon, al kol panim. Just as he needs food. Ve'al hamenucha, ve'al hashena. He needs rest, he needs sleep. So there has to be celebration. V'ratza kel l'zakoseinu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to benefit us. Anachnu, we, Amal, his nation, v'tzon mariso, the sheep that he grazes. V'tzivanu lasos hasimcha lishmo. So he says, if you're already celebrating, celebrate for me. Celebrate in my name. So that all our deeds will be a merit. Because if we just have stama celebration, so it's not a mitzvah, it's not a schutz. We'll be rewarded for it. But now that we're celebrating for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it becomes a mitzvah, and we'll be rewarded. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu won l'zakoseinu, and therefore he gave us this mitzvah.
This was the reasoning of the Ontario government?
No. But you see that it's not...
It's God's reasoning too.
It's not because the Yetzias Mitzrayim is a cause for celebration that we celebrate. We have to celebrate. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to Mizaka, said, if you're celebrating, celebrate for Yetzias Mitzrayim. And he goes on to say that there's another benefit over here, because when you celebrate for the sake of a religious purpose, there is a safeguard that it won't go overboard as well. Mm-hmm. And he writes, realizing this is controversial, he says, V'asher imo hisbeinenus, and the person who understands, mibli hachefetz bekitrug, without the desire to criticize, yimtza tam b'dvarai, he will find tam in my words. Meaning he understood that someone will be critical of this. But if a person is willing to be objective, then he'll agree with what I say. But that's the idea, that we have to celebrate. Celebration is a legitimate human need, but the Rebbeinu Shalom said we should celebrate on religious occasions, because it becomes a schus, and there's a shmira, that it shouldn't go too far. And that's the basis of the mitzvah of Simchas Yom Tov. The reason Adar is the greatest celebration is l'chora, because Adar is the greatest salvation. When the Gemara says that after the Torah was given, we had 48 Nevi'im and 7 Nevi'is, 48 male prophets, 7 female prophets, and they never added a mitzvah to the Torah until Purim. Purim was the first mitzvah d'Rabbanan that was added. And the Gemara says, my Dorish, what was the basis for Purim? They made a Kal V'chomer, that if we find that when the Jews went through the Yam Suf, so after the Kriyas Yam Suf, they said Shira, and that was merely me'avdus l'chevus. All that happened at the Yetzias Mitzrayim is they went from slavery to freedom, and here in the Purim story it's misa l'chaim, it's from death to life, so it's a kal v'chaymer. So the Gemara says that in that sense, the Yetzias Mitzrayim is the greatest, the Purim is the greatest salvation, greater than Yetzias Mitzrayim. So therefore, Pesach is one level of simcha. The Mishnichnas Adar, the month of Purim, then Marvin b'simcha, it's even a greater cause of celebration. Okay, so let's put celebration on the back burner for now. That's the simple meaning of Mishnichnas Adar Marvin b'simcha. But there's a theme that goes through with Tzaddok in many of his places, where it's clear that he understands simcha in the other way. Simcha in the sense of contentment, of satisfaction, and somehow Purim and Adar teach us something, or inspire us in a certain way, that we can find greater satisfaction in life. In other words, Mishnichnas Adar Marvin b'simcha is not merely that we have more celebration, but we have more contentment, more satisfaction. That if we experience Adar, we learn the lessons from Purim that we're meant to learn, our lives will be richer lives, will be happier lives, we'll be happier with ourselves. We'll be more contented people. And that's something which requires great understanding. What exactly is it that Purim teaches us that somehow improves the quality of our lives in a way that other Yom Tovim don't? And that's going to be a little bit of the focus of our discussion tonight. Why aren't we happy? I mean, that's the assumption I'm making. But what is the obstacle? What is the obstacle to happiness in that sense? Happiness in the sense of being contented with one's lot. What is our problem? I mean, certainly, if a person is lacking some essential needs, like money, that will put a damper on one's joy. And this was already pointed out by Aristotle, that people that say that a person can be contented with his lot in life, even without the basic necessities of food and shelter and money and companionship, is not speaking the truth. Because obviously, a lack of those basic needs is going to make it very difficult to look at one's life with a sense of satisfaction. But it seems to me that even those of us who are pretty well off, but Baruch Hashem, we have a roof over our heads, and we have food to eat, and we even have friends, and we have jobs, etc. There's something missing. There is something there, or something not there, which makes it that when we look at our lives, there's an emptiness, there's something incomplete, there's something that we really feel is missing. I would argue that what's missing is a sense of our own self-worth. Because we don't feel important in our own eyes. We don't feel valued. We don't feel that we make a difference. We don't feel that anyone cares. Now, I've had the unusual experience of heading a yeshiva for a number of years. And on occasion, there have been occasions where it's been necessary to expel a student. And I always am curious to see what is the reaction going to be on the part of the other students when this person is sent away. Are they going to be upset? Are they going to miss him? Are they going to beg for mercy that we take him back? And I'll tell you, it astounds me every time, or not been that many times, but every time it astounds me that it seems that no one really cares.
Maybe it's fear.
I remember on one memorable occasion, back in Hamilton, the old yeshiva, I remember there was a boy, Nabach. The boy was involved in some very serious stuff, and he had to be sent away. And they were dividing up the stuff he left behind.
But if they feel that it is a just decision, what reaction would they have?
Yeah, that may be true, but the point I want to make is this. Imagine if you were that boy and you were privy to the fact that your leaving really made no difference to anybody. How would you feel? Like a big no. I remember, this goes back years ago, I really shouldn't quote this on the same evening that we're learning of Tzaddok, but I remember when I was a kid, in Mad Magazine, they had an article, you know you're really a nobody when such and such. So one of the lines was, you know you're a nobody when you quit your job and don't create a vacancy. But I think most of us feel that way. Most of us feel sometimes, one time or another, that if we would disappear, it would make no difference to anybody. Okay, maybe our family, our loved ones, our closest friends would miss us a little bit, but really, are we really valuable where it counts?
In the sense of that we're insignificant in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, are we? And to me, it seems that's really an obstacle to this type of simcha. Simcha in the sense of satisfaction with one's life. But I'll just mention an amazing thing that Aristotle says in the Maccabean Ethics, that when you talk about happiness in life, that really is a judgment that a person can only make at the end of his life. Mm-hmm. The question of happiness is not, am I happy now? Right now, I'm very happy. I don't know if I can even convey how happy I am. You know, to be sitting with such wonderful people and you know, talking about Divrei Torah, Adar, I can't think of anything I'd rather be doing at this moment. So at this moment, I'm very, very happy. But the question of whether I am happy about my life as a whole, that's not a judgment that we make from minute to minute. That's a judgment that we make looking at our whole life from beginning to end. Therefore, Aristotle points out that the true judgment of happiness can only be made really at the end of one's life, looking back over the whole span of it.
It's not the judgment that Yaakov.
What do you mean?
Yaakov makes a judgment that his life is not a good life when he speaks of Pharaoh. And his life is far from complete.
No. Look at the Ramban. The Ramban explains what Yaakov was saying. The Ramban explains that Yaakov wasn't bemoaning his life. He merely was saying that the reason I look so unusually old is because I've had a hard chain of experiences. But he wasn't belittling God's kindnesses. Pardon?
He was punished for that. For like 17 years or something? Short?
That may be, because I'll say that. But the Ramban says Darchei he wasn't belittling. Al Capone, this is what I think. And therefore, it could be that the answer to this question is that Purim somehow is meant to lift us up. Somehow, from Purim, we are meant to derive or extract the idea of the value and the worth of a Jew. Because every Jew can acquire a sense of how precious he is in the eyes of the Ribono Shel Olam, who after all is the basis of all value, how precious he is in the eyes of the Ribono Shel Olam. And when you think about that, then you can't help but feel that your life has worth, has value, and thus we introduce the element of simcha. So that's what Nichmas Adar Marpim B'Simcha is. That somehow Purim, we are engaged in a process of discovering the value of a Jew, the value of a Yid, in the eyes of the Ribono Shel Olam, and that becomes the ground for Simcha. Now, just to open this up before we get into Tzaddok's words, and I see we're really on track to be here for the next 3 hours, but I'll share with you a vart that I heard many, many years ago, B'Shem Rafut Nezechet Tzaddok Livracha. I'm almost embarrassed to say how many years I heard it. It was before I was married, so we're probably talking about 28, 29, maybe 30 years ago. I heard this, but it made such an impression at the time that I can't forget it. I don't think it's published in any of the Svarim. Now, the Rambam, in two places, talks about the idea of including the poor in your celebration. Once in Hilchos Yontif, generally, and one specifically in Hilchos Purim. So, on that sheet, you can see the words of the Rambam. The Rambam writes regarding Yontif in the first quotation, when a person eats and drinks on Yontif, you have to feed the ger and the orphan and the widow, along with the other unfortunate poor. If a person locks the doors of his courtyard, and he eats and drinks, he and his sons and his wife, he doesn't give to eat to the poor and the embittered. This is not a simcha shal mitzvah, this is not a mitzvah celebration, this is a celebration of his own belly. And he goes on. So the Rabbi understands that the problem here is a problem of kavanah. It's a problem of intent. Because what is the acid test as to whether it's a simcha shal mitzvah or merely a pretense for self-indulgence? To the extent that you involve others. There's a famous mashal from the Dubna Maggid, a very beautiful mashal, that there once was a man who had two sons. One son was fabulously wealthy, and the other son was a poor beggar. And the man was making a simcha, another child was getting married, and he wrote letters to his two sons who lived in other cities, and he said that I'd like you to come simcha, and any money you spend in my honor, I will reimburse you. So the rich son got the letter, and he said, this is a golden opportunity. He went, he took his family out, he bought a whole new wardrobe, and they were dressed to the nines, I think the expression goes. And the poor son had no money to lay out to buy the new clothes. He couldn't even borrow the money, relying on the reimbursement. And they came as they were. Anyway, they were coming in by train. They arrived at the station at the same time, so the father went out to greet his sons, along with the mechut, the other side, accompanying him to the train station to meet the mishpacha. So first, the well-dressed family comes out, and the father's so proud, look how beautiful they look. And the mechut says, oh, such fine people, you must be very proud. Yes, I am very proud. And then the schleppers come off the train, and they're wearing shmatas and their rags and they're ugly. And the mechut says, every family never is, And that was it. Anyway, so the chasna, the celebration, everything passes, and it's time to say goodbye. And the wealthy son comes into his father and says, I'm leaving. He says, oh, thank you for coming. For gesund, have a good trip back home. So the son says, Tata, I think you may be forgetting something. Forgetting something? Don't forget it. He says, you wrote in the letter that you would reimburse our expenses. So he says, I wrote that in the letter? I was going to reimburse your expenses? Show me the letter. So he pulls out the letter and reads it. It says here that I would reimburse you for any money you spent in my honor. Says, you spend that money in my honor? Spend it for yourself. If you would have spent it in my honor, you wouldn't have let your brother come like that.